And joining us right now on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line, 2008 Phillies world champion pitcher, and let's not forget hitter. And the man is dabbling in the music industry. Well, he's been dabbling for quite a while. He's got his album out there. You guys can check it out. You know who I'm talking about. Mr. Brett Myers joins the show. Brett, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Just got back from Philly, so we had a fun time up there.
It certainly looked like. I mean, I was following you on the social media, of course, and they put you on the Jumbotron, which is great, Fanavision, whatever. This picture, I'm going to flat out, man, that you guys in 08 were the first championship I got to experience in Philadelphia. So I saw this picture, and it just immediately warmed my heart. How great was it to see those guys again?
It was awesome. I'm not like big with the picture stuff. I have my phone. I usually don't take the pictures. I was just happy that there was people there to capture those pictures. I mean, because I guess, I didn't really I guess the social media stuff, trying to post it or whatever. I'm just happy that, my wife and friends of ours were there to take those pictures, because I would have never had them. I would have remembered it, but it was good. A lot of hugs and with the guys and whatever, and just enjoyed the atmosphere. I told the wife, it was kind of a whim that we went up there on Tuesday. I said, we were watching the game about the fifth inning. I said, we should go up there on Friday and go watch the game. And I just kind of explained it to her. I was like, I got to feel that playoff Philly atmosphere again. It's something as a player, you saw it. And then, I mean, the stadium was shaking up there after Hoskins hit that home run. And I was just like, this is insane. Like when you play, I guess you're focused on what you got to do out there, and you kind of don't get to experience it from the other side and get to see that energy and everything. And I can tell you right now, going into those two games there, I really felt like they were going to give the Braves a hard time, because I knew what kind of energy they could bring to a stadium, and having that 10th man out there was, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm glad that I didn't have to experience that on the other side as an opposing player in a playoff atmosphere.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it in 07 and 08, that 10th man type of mentality. I heard JT Realmuto speak about it over the weekend to my buddy John Clark of NBC Sports Philly about how that energy, it's no joke. Like, home field advantage, especially in Philadelphia, is a real thing. And you guys felt that, through your run here in Philadelphia.
Right. I was telling my buddy, who unfortunately was a Braves fan. I know I shouldn't be buddies with a Braves fan, but at least at that time. But I was telling him, I know his team lost or whatever, but I said, you could go to Atlanta and watch a playoff game, and it'll never be like this. It'll never be, and nothing against the Atlanta fans or anything, but there's just something different about the Philly fans and during playoff baseball that I can guarantee. I was telling them as well that those players down there that have never been to the playoffs have no idea what's about to happen, and it really makes you elevate your game when those fans are cheering as loud as that and having the stadium rocking the way it was. So I'm sure they probably talked about it after the game too, of how electric that place was.
Certainly. You mentioned the Hoskins home run, and I was there Friday. From a pitcher's perspective, I don't know if there's a greater gauntlet dropped than intentionally walking a guy like Kyle Schwarber to get to the next guy. Right. As a pitcher, what's going through your mind? Are you thinking, okay, now it's put up time, like I got to make sure that I make my pitcher? What are you thinking?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Hoskins was struggling so much through the series and everything. I thought it, on paper, it was a great move, but at some point you got to know that those guys are going to step up. Something's going to happen. You know what I mean? I know Schwarber, like the top of the lineup, has been struggling a little bit, and man, they came through in a big way those two games there in Philly.
Mm-hmm. How was Pat Burrell? How was Pat Burrell's first pitch? Did you give him any advice?
Yeah, no. So I talked to him about it, and he said, I said, man, you just lobbed it in there, dude. He goes, well, I didn't know the Fanatic was going to be catching it. So he kind of like turned around, and he's like, oh man, it's him. I don't want to hurt him or throw anything good, And I was like, I would have just threw it to the backstop and laughed or something like that. It'd been fun.
Why not?
Had fun with it or something. He's like, well, I mean, he's like, I didn't want to hurt the guy, He catches it bare hands with his gloves on, so it's funny.
Do you see any similarities? I mean, this team is this team that we're watching right now in Philadelphia is a over the luxury tax type of team. You guys had a lot of, up and comers on that team. You guys had a lot of guys that obviously came through the system, yourself included. When you look back, like Cole Hamels, obviously Ryan Howard, I don't have to name the roster for you, but do you see any similarities in attitude or anything like that between the 08 team, your Phillies, and of course this team now?
Well, I think that the main thing that would really helped us, like we went in '07, and we'd come up together, like most of us, so we kind of knew exactly each other's personalities, I guess you would say, and it took us a few years to click, you know. In '07, we saw the atmosphere and we're like, we'll be back next year, no problem, you know. And '08, '09 went to the World Series, and we had a bunch of good players, and we just knew how to play together. I think that once the manager change happened, I kind of started seeing them play. And I'm not saying it was anybody's fault or whatever, but in order to win, you don't have to have the best team. You just have to have a team, you know, like they play as a team, you know, and not like take selfish at bats. And I know games changed a lot and everything, but certain things that I watch, I'm like swinging first pitch down 3-0, and a solo homer is not going to do anything right there. But, like I said, games changed. That they start playing the first game they beat Atlanta, I watched a lot of unselfish at bats and watched them bunt the ball, watched them get guys over. And I'm like, that's winning baseball right there. And I thought that down the stretch, they started to play better as a team and not just rely on the home run, like most of these teams do these days, because the game's changing, so it's about the long ball.
Yeah.
So, but watching that small stuff happen, I'm like, that's good fundamental baseball. And I think that had a lot to do with how, going against Max Fried, like, come on, man, he's one of the best in the game, so, and they, 4 straight hits, moving runners over and everything like that. And I thought winning that first one was a big step, because I knew when they got to Philly, if they were tied, those Braves were going to be in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. When a lot of people talking heads like myself will say, a manager in baseball is going to be responsible for maybe 10 wins, maybe 5 wins, maybe 5 losses, maybe 10 losses, whatever. As a player, when you look at managerial changes, whether it's Boa to Charlie Manuel, or you played for Terry Francona, you played for Robin Ventura in Chicago. When you look at those guys, how many wins or losses is a manager really responsible for, do you think?
I think that it comes down to protecting the bullpen. For at least in my days or whatever, I've tried to go out there and at least go 6-7 innings to keep the bullpen fresh. I would like to call myself like an innings eater. Like, I always took the ball, I always wanted to be out there. If you pulled me out of the game, sometimes I hated Charlie for pulling me out of the games, but it was just competitive fire, I guess you would say. But I think it comes down to not wearing your bullpen out. And again, the game's changed, man. They want these starters 5 innings now. They're out of there. If you pull me after 5, I'm mad. I was upset that they pulled Nola out after the hit, because I would probably been kicking and screaming to stay into that game, but you don't want to show up your manager. You can probably go talk to him afterwards and stuff. I know I've had those times with Charlie that I've just went in there and said, leave me in there, I'm good, or whatever like that, just have those closed door meetings with them. But and I know Nola's that type of competitor. He didn't want to come out of that game, but certain things like that, man, that you look at from the outside and everything that you might not agree with, but it might be the best decision. You know what I mean? So I was always told to stay away from the manager when I was a young kid, like stay away from him. So I didn't kind of like really pay attention to much of that stuff, other than the days that I was pitching. They write the lineup, they what they play, the numbers, they play what's hot. And if you know that stuff and but you also got to stick with what got you there too. So sure. I think Rob Thompson's done a great job right now. Obviously, turned the team around. Nothing that, I think I saw something Girardi was saying the other day, that they had a tough stretch playing all these tough teams, and then he got fired type thing. So, so who knows, man? It does come down to those decisions being made, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, and you just got to own up to your decisions, So, I do like the way they've been playing the game this past month or so.
One of the things that always gets brought up with Charlie is being brought up right now with Rob Thompson, and that's the player's manager mantra. When you hear that, the player's manager, how would you define that? How would you attempt to define a player's manager?
So Charlie just kind of let us be us, but if we got out of line, he would dang sure tell us about it, like after a game, before a game, whatever it was. And it wasn't just us individually. He just kind of let us be our own people. He didn't try to micromanage our personalities. he just let us go and said, "Go, do whatever you got to do to help us win the game. But if I got to reel you back in, I will, you know." So there was plenty of times where we saw Charlie really, really ticked off at us, and it would come like we might lose like 3-4 in a row or something like that, and he didn't like the energy or something like that, and stuff we were doing or whatever, and he just have to put us back in our place, you know, and that's fine. But he wasn't yelling at us every single day. Not saying that happened with other managers I had, but Charlie just let us be us, and he told us that too. You know, he came in spring training, and even he's like, "This is y'all's clubhouse. Y'all can do whatever the heck you want in here. But if I feel like something's getting out of line, you got to clean your room. You know, you got to get in there like your parents would do. Like, all right, your room's messy. You need to clean it up, right?" So that's kind of the way I took it for Charlie. You know, managing us, I basically, you know, and he's easy to talk to too. You know, like it's he's busting jokes with you all the time. So it's kind of almost like he's our manager, but he's going to have fun with you too, you know?
The last time you were on, I remember you said that I think Charlie threatened, I don't know if he threatened or made a joke about, "I'd trade all you guys for Giancarlo Stanton." Was that a threat or a joke?
I don't even remember that.
Oh, okay.
But you know what? If whatever he had to say to get us back in line, I was good with, man. I didn't care what he said, you know. It all comes down to this. All comes down to winning. You know, you want to win, and you have fun when you win. I played on some of the worst teams in baseball, 100-team losses, man. But and coming through the Phillies organization early in those years, where we just miss a playoff or be so bad we didn't have a chance, they introduced the wild card, then we start having chances, and then we make it. So being able to experience that and go through those years made it a lot sweeter when we did win. And it's not like that we're not out there trying to lose, you know. I mean, who does that? Why play the game if you go out there and expect to lose, you know?
One of the things that a lot of fans brought up, Brett, was the idea that they didn't want the Phillies to make the playoffs because they would just get embarrassed.
Right.
And in all honesty, not that I thought you guys were embarrassed in 07 by any means, but I thought that was a valuable year to get to 08. Sure, it was a 3-0 sweep. Okay, so what was the importance of 07 to 08?
So 07 was getting a monkey off our back, I guess you would say. Not just because coming through from when I got caught up in 02 to that year 07, like we knew what was at stake. I mean, we knew the fans wanted it. We wanted it too. You know, we knew the drought was there and stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I went up this past weekend, because I know it's been 11 years since they've been in the playoffs, and I know how bad the fans want it, and that's one thing that we felt in 07 getting in there. And then 08, it was like, all right, we've been here before. We know what to do. We know what it takes, you know. I mean, we were basically in the playoffs the last month of the 07 season. I think I threw like 8 of 9 days at one point. I didn't care. I was like, give me the ball, and it would come down to the last day whether or not we were going to get in the playoffs or not, you know, or win the division type thing. So we were technically, in my opinion, in the playoffs for a month before we even literally started the playoffs. So, and we ran the Mets down. So, I mean, a lot of energy goes into that, obviously, but once you feel that. And we ran into a buzzsaw with Colorado too. I mean, they had 2 good young arms, Baldo Jimenez and a big lefty, both throwing 98 in the shadows at Citizens Bank Park. I'm sitting there going, man, this is tough, you know. So just I mean, the hitters were even saying it's tough, man. And you've never seen those guys. Usually, you know, if you had like a veteran guy on the mound that we have a lot of video of or something, you could be able to have a track record of how he pitched you before. But these young guys, you know, you look at most of young guys' first starts. They come to the big leagues, they dominate because nobody knows them. So it's got to keep making adjustments. So once we got in 07 and we lost, it was just like, it just gave us a bitter taste, you know, of kind of let down, you know, worked so hard to get there and then kind of got knocked out in the first round. And then the next year it was just game on like that. I don't think there was anything holding us back. I know Jimmy said, we're the team to beat and everything. And we felt that way too. Nobody said anything to Jimmy about making those comments. I can tell you that, because we all felt it. Nobody said, Jimmy, what are you doing? Like you're jinxing this or something like that. Right. No, we actually all felt that way. Like we knew what we had, and we been to the playoffs as younger guys, think I was like 27, turned 28, been in the organization, my whole life and knew what it meant to the organization and everything lined up for us to win the thing. So, and, like I go back to might not have the best team on paper, or names, and people say, oh, how did we win a World Series with Hamels, Myers, Blanton, and Moyer? Like they're not like stars or like the Holiday, Oswalt, Lee, those days when they had the top 5 dudes in pretty much baseball, and they didn't win anything, so it's kind of not always about that, it's like who steps up in certain situations, and all those guys are great pitchers, man. I wish I had the career they did, but sometimes it doesn't happen, so it's tough game too. The ball bounces.
Right. By the way, speaking of those great pitchers, real quick, this is a little fun fact I wanted to bring up to you because I didn't even realize this, and excuse me for not realizing this before. The year you were actually in Houston at the time, but the year 2010 when Roy Halladay won the National League Cy Young Award, did you even know that you finished 10th?
Yeah, I did, but it
okay.
was late. I had a pretty good run that year. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure I got 2 hits off of him that year too when I faced
him. Of course, you remember that.
But it was funny because every time I played the Phillies, like I wouldn't get a hit ever. And then when I played the Phillies, I got 2 off of him that year, I think, and then 2 off of Oswalt. And they're both with the Phillies. So like every time I faced the Phillies, I would get a hit, and I'm like, I don't even know what's happening right now, honestly, because I'm facing 2 of the top arms in baseball history, probably, with the stuff that those guys done, and I found it funny and amusing. But yeah, I had a pretty good run that year. I had like 31 consecutive starts of going 6 innings or more. So the fact that, and hard to get noticed on a team. It's always hard to get noticed on a team when you lose 100 games, So, so that's, and I don't know if that's how many we lost that year, but it dang sure felt like it every year. We lost 100 games there.
Well, you
after
won.
They traded everybody.
Right. You won 14. You were 14-8 in 33 starts, and you had a 3.14 ERA. Now, just real quick on this list, incredible. Okay, Halladay, Wainwright, Jimenez, Tim Hudson. You guys had some great battles, Phillies and Braves. Josh Johnson, Roy Oswalt on that. Brian Wilson, Heath Bell, Matt Latos, Tim Lincecum, Bronson Arroyo, and Matt Cain with you coming in there number 10. Just wild to think about that.
So that
go ahead.
That year, honestly, so I had that take that back. I didn't know I had 33. The last start of the year, I had a sub-3 ERA, and I ended up giving up 5 runs to the Reds, and that was my 33rd start. We weren't playing for anything, but I was trying to go out there and go 6 innings. They come and pull me out after 5 2/3 because I gave up a grand slam to Brandon Phillips on a changeup. Why I threw that pitch, I don't know. But I had a chance to have a sub-3 ERA for the first time in my career, and I blew it.
Oh!
I might have finished higher than 10th if I had a sub.
I'll have to go back and look, see how the other guys did in their last start. Brett, 2 more questions for you. Here's one. Does this Phillies team, very simple, does this Phillies team have it? Do they have a strong chance? Do they have the it factor to win a championship?
Well, I can tell you what, man, with Wheeler and Nola, I love them. They're my 2 favorite. Well, my favorite player is Alec Boehm. I don't know why, but I just like the kid, So, and I tell people that it's my favorite guy. Let's examine
that. Let's examine that for just a second. Why Alec Boehm? Is it the flow? Is it the honesty? What is it?
No. Well, I do like the honesty was cool, but I just like the way he plays the game. He doesn't try to do too much, uses the whole field at the plate, and it makes some crazy plays at third. I know he'll make his errors too, but I mean, he makes some really good plays. Like I'm up there, obviously I spotlight him on the team. Like, the big names, but I just like the way Bone plays the game and good approach at the plate, 2-strike approach, seems to always put it in play at the right times, so I kind of like that. He's not going to go out there and hit you 30 bombs yet. I believe he will down the road, but I just like the way he hits, and plays the game. I just, for some reason, I like that stuff,
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
But yeah, I think for them making it, I honestly, I was like, no way they win game 1. I mean, let's look at the matchup there. Ranger Suarez versus Max Fried. I'm probably going to lean towards Max Fried there. game 2, I was like, oh, Wheeler should have that one. You see how the game against Kyle Wright, and I'm going, no way Wheeler loses that one if you think that way, right? So we're 1-1 either way, however it went. But then it goes Suarez wins, and then Wright wins against Wheeler, and I'm just like, this is why you can never predict baseball. Like, you never know, especially playoff baseball. You have no idea. Like, I loved Nola facing him. I knew Strider was coming in after having 3 weeks off from the oblique. That was going to be tough. Young kid, never been in that atmosphere before. I felt like they would get to him, and they did. And they got hot those 2 days in Philly, and I know why. Those fans have a lot to do with that, man. Like, a lot to do with it, because that energy and everything, it's hard to lose it with that energy. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to not step the game up, and the only thing that you don't want to do is try to overdo it and overthink it and everything. Just let the adrenaline take over and go play your game, And it was great to be up there. It's great to watch that atmosphere, and I hope they do keep going. It'd be nice. It'd be nice for the city of Philadelphia.
Okay. Because this is my final question to you. The last time you were on with me, you had talked about how you hoped you were the last one. Now, maybe a little tongue in cheek.
I still feel that way. But if they do it, they do it. I'll be happy either way. I was happy they won. I just, but I do, selfishly do feel that way. Because I was sitting up there in the seats and everything, and I said, you know what? If they win it like in 10 years, and these guys come back, they won't have tickets for me no more. Those guys are getting the tickets. You know what I'm saying? So they forget that guy, forget these 08 guys. We just got a new world champion, So it's I do hope that I do hope that they win it. I like when the Eagles win. I like it for the fans of Philadelphia. I mean, because I don't know, man. You saw the stadium Friday, man. I was like, how do you not want their hometown team to win? How do you not want them to win? But wait, how passionate those fans got and how loud they got. I'm telling you, after that home run, I was standing up there and the stadium was shaking, and I was just like, this is incredible. There's only one place in the country that you would want to play, and it's got, for me, and it's got to be Philly in playoff baseball. Like, they might not. They'll come out to support you during the season, but when that playoff hits, man, it's a different animal. It's a different animal, and I love every bit of it. So,
when you were playing elsewhere, just real quick, when you were playing elsewhere, did that ever come up? Playing in Philadelphia, would people talk about playing in Philadelphia?
Yeah, they like, it's a tough place to play, stuff like that. I'm like, no, it's not. It's the best place to play. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, look, man, if you're honest with yourself, and those fans know when you suck, and I know when I suck too. Like, I always was like, just, you're not, if you don't make excuses and you just tell them, hey, listen, I suck today, then they're going to like you more. When you own up to stuff, like Alec Boehm owned up to what he said, he hates that place or whatever like that. I don't think he meant that, that way. At that time, I'm like, yeah, I bet he does hate that place right now, but I don't think he felt like that overall, So
Gotcha.
There was times that I hated the place too, just because I sucked so bad and I deserved it. But at the time, I was able to tell myself and tell them, yeah, I'm booing myself as well, because I know I wasn't doing my part. So
gotcha. When can we expect the next Backwood Rebel album coming out? When's that happening?
Man, I don't know yet. I haven't really had much time to even sit down and think about it. Been traveling so much with my older boy, playing, travel ball and going into his junior year this year. So he's committed to University of Florida. So, and he's trying to do big things. He wants to play at the next level. So we'll see what happens. I'm trying to give him every opportunity I can give him at this point, and focus on him instead of, putting out more music right now. I'm not saying it won't happen, but like I said, just got home from doing him and then ended up in Philly this past weekend. So, when I get some time to take a breath, I'm pretty sure I'll have a lot to say on the next album.
Fantastic. Brett, appreciate you taking the time to come on the show again. A great return by Brett Myers here on the Farzy Show. And good luck to your son. Good luck with the album. And my best to your family, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Brett Myers joining us on the Ruffman Orthopedics guest line.